it's Dawn here and welcome back. If you joined us before and if you've joined me for the first time, you're still very welcome. And we are going to continue with painting with our watercolour pencils here, and we're continuing with painting on different surfaces. And today we're going to do one step up, if you like, from yesterday's. Yesterday's, if you joined me, we were painting on acrylic paper. Well, this is canvas board. It's a similar texture, only it's a little bit more rough, and it's a lot more substantial than acrylic paper. You can throw anything you like at this board and it won't cockle, it won't bend, it won't tear. It's brilliant. The only problem with it, with using watercolour pencils, of course, because of the texture, it does have a tendency to grind down your pencils. So do make sure that you have your trusty pencil sharpener handy, because you're probably going to need it, especially if you do a large painting. This one isn't particularly large, it's about an 8x8. But I'm just going to finish off this little scene. It took a while to paint this up, so I'm just going to finish it off. And we're going to finish off this fence, and we're going to start with a dry onto wet technique. Oops, I do beg your pardon. Which, if you've joined me before, you will have seen me do many times. I'll try not to do that again. And so we're just going to paint the water over these fence posts here to begin with. And then we're going to paint the pencil actually over the wet, or into the wet. And you do, as we've done before, especially on this board, it gives you a lovely texture. So you've almost got that wood grain texture coming in for you. So you get the greater textures and the great effects with very little effort, which is even better. And because it's not porous, which means it doesn't sink in, it does give you a bit more time to work. Because these boards were designed to paint with acrylics and oils, which obviously take longer to dry than watercolour, and especially watercolour pencils. They're designed for that, so this will give you longer. If you need longer to work, especially onto your wet into wet techniques, this board will allow you to do that. So we're just going to do that bit first. Pop that brush out the way. And I'll try not to bash the camera again. Serves me right for putting it in a different position. I moved it because this board is a bit bigger than my little demonstration watercolour papers that I usually work on. So I moved the camera over a bit to give me a bit more room. And the upshot of that is I forgot where I put it and I knocked it. So I'll try not to do that again. So we'll just do that bit down there. We can go straight over that, that's no problem. And if you wash it out like I've just done there, pop it back in, no problem. So we're just going to finish this fence, which won't take us long. There, and you've got a very effective fence in very little time. I like these effects where you don't have to do much work to it, much more fun. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to finish this grass, and I'm going to use a slightly darker, I think this is called permanent green, but you can use any green you've got in your collection or in your box, your tin. Just use a darker green for the foreground, that's my only tip for that. Darker at the front, paler at the back, and that helps with your perspective and your perception of distance. So we're going to finish off this. This is just a basic wash. So we're going to shade it on, but because this is in the foreground, I am going to shade it on fairly thickly. And it will grind the pencil down because of the texture, but that's okay. It won't grind it right down, but it will make it wear down quicker than it would if you were painting a watercolour pencil. So again, just like we did yesterday, if you were joining me, you can still see these gaps of the canvas, or the canvas board, but you won't by the time we're finished. So we're just going to straighten that up a bit, pop that there, and put the pencil back. Take some water. I don't think you can quite see my water pop, it's just there. Because I've had to move things around. So it's not, everything's not in its usual place. So it's a little bit strange to paint this way, but never mind. So just go back into my water again. Tomorrow perhaps I'll try and raise the camera a bit higher, which I think we're going to need to for tomorrow's, but we'll discover more about that tomorrow. So for today, we'll just finish this off we'll just finish this little corner off here, finish this little scene, and then we are done for the day. Almost. And there we go. There is one scene painted up, and do make sure you wash your brush out, especially if you're using watercolour, which, as we discovered yesterday, if you're going to be painting on these rougher textured surfaces, I would recommend using watercolour pencils rather than aquarelle. And just to recap, aquarelle are made with synthetic pigments, which means they tend to be a bit paler in tone, and watercolour pencils are made with artist watercolour pigment, so obviously they're a lot stronger, which is what these are. And so whatever you choose to do, have fun with your painting. As you can see, this has now completely disappeared, but because it's a hard texture and non-porous, it does take a bit longer to dry. So what I did with the sky up here and these other bits and pieces, I did use my hairdryer to dry them, but I tend not to do that on camera because it does make a bit of a noise. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed all this. If you are enjoying this series, please do hit the like button and subscribe down below so that you never miss a video. We've got one more painting in this series of painting on different textures, and if you thought this was controversial, tomorrow will seem completely balmy. So come back tomorrow and you'll see what else I get up to. And in the meantime, have fun with your paintings, have a great day whatever you're doing, stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye till then.